We're there.
The shiny green button.
So another problem is the red button is much more attractive. Like it draws my eye much stronger. So now I want to push the red button.
Push.
What was that? Do you guys remember that Genesis video? Land of Confusion. Land of Confusion. Yes, exactly. Where it was like the whole joke was like
he pushed the wrong button.
Like
one was
pushed the wrong button, and it was like nothing versus nuke, and he pushed the nuke instead because it was red. Hey, buddy, come on. Hey,
okay, leave the red button alone.
Wait.
Hey.
Right back. What you doing?
She's having so much fun with Odie.
Oh, I know. Those two. The thing about a new dog is it gets a little better every day, but it's like sitting in boiling water. You don't notice it until suddenly you look back. You're like, wow.
Yeah. One day someone comes over and like, oh, you've got such a well-behaved dog. You're like,
yeah, right. No, I've totally had that situation. We're like, really? I still think he's got a ways to go, but all right.
Yeah. I just got done sweeping up a newspaper he chewed through. So, I mean...
Well, I had a friend who works in entertainment, but not really tech, get a hold of me and said, can you intro me to Len Peralta? I've seen his work and he's amazing.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, I can. I know. I was so pleased. Because I didn't even know that he was looking for sort of like illustrative work, but he was.
Yeah.
Or is. So yeah, hopefully the two of them can work on fun things.
Oh, I'm sure he's so appreciative of that.
That's totally. Awesome. Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't even, I didn't actually forge the relationship. It happened on its own.
According to the chat room, the dog is doing a great job of training you.
Train me. Yeah, well, that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah. All right. Are y'all ready to do a little show here?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, let's do it then. I'm going to start us in 15 seconds. Reasons I will disclose later. No, it's just I've tried to make it easy to write down the start time that I put in the Patreon post. So there you go. It's later. I disclosed. Here we go. Thanks to everyone who supports Daily Tech News Show directly. To find out more and join them because it helps, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, August 30th, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I am Sarah Lane.
Joining us from CNET, it's great to have Erin Carson back on the show. How's it going, Erin?
It's going well.
We are going to talk succulents and petrified wood and more. Ginseng. This is all in Erin's feature story she did for CNET about ways that national parks are using technology to stop bad behavior, kind of, right?
Indeed, yeah. Seems like national parks have a little bit of a problem on their hands that they're trying to address through tech.
And not all of them have solutions in tech. So I don't know, maybe the combined audience brain power can help out. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Google's Titan security key is now for sale in the Google Store to the general public, with a full kit including a USB key, Bluetooth key, and various connectors available for $50 and shipping immediately. Google Cloud customers have had Titan availability since last month, and Titan keys use the FIDO standard and work as a second factor for services like Facebook and Dropbox and GitHub, and of course, Google account logins.
How convenient that they work on Google. Apple announced an event for September 12th at the Steve Jobs Theater in Cupertino. What could it be? Media invites include the tagline, "Gather Round," with a coppery or flaming looking circle on it. I think it means the return of the home button. Anyway, what's probably actually going to happen are 3 new flagship iPhones, a redesigned Apple Watch, maybe some Mac and iPad updates. It's always possible. More information on Apple's wireless charging mat. The AirPower would be welcomed. Whether they'll do it or not, we'll have to see on September 12th.
A new circular phone.
That's what it is.
Spread the word, everybody. See how far that goes. Sony unveiled the new Xperia XZ3 with a 6-inch 2880 by 1440 OLED display and an 18:9 aspect ratio. Has a 3330 milliamp battery. It's a little bit bigger than the XZ2, a fingerprint reader on the back, and will ship with Android 9 Pie. Inside is a Snapdragon 845 processor, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, and a little AI inside as well. There's a new side sense function. So if you tap the side of the phone, it'll bring up a menu filled with apps that the phone thinks you're probably looking for based on what you were already doing. The Xperia XZ3 goes on sale in October for $900.
And Lenovo announced a slew of stuff at IFA, a new Chromebook, new Windows laptops, smart home devices. Among them was the YogaBook C930. Whereas the YogaBook A12 2 years ago put a touchscreen where the keyboard should be, the YogaBook C930 swaps out the keyboard for an e-ink screen, which you can then use as a keyboard, a notepad, or an e-reader. C930 will be available in October, starting at $1,000. Everyone who's interested in that, email us, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
You laugh, Tom.
I do, and I want to stop laughing. So stop my laughing. Feedback@dailytechnewsshow. All right, let's talk a little bit more about Apple. This is an actual confirmed story that Apple says did happen.
Yeah, true story. Apple confirmed it did acquire Aconia Holographics. That's a startup based in Colorado that makes lenses for augmented reality glasses. Aconia was founded in 2012 and originally focused on holographic data storage, then pivoted to focus more on AR displays. Aconia has a portfolio of more than 200 patents related to holographic systems and materials. That's according to its website, which probably did not hurt the deal for Apple either.
Yeah, it looks like we're talking about a company that makes some essential parts for augmented reality glasses. So, Erin, I'm guessing everybody's going to jump to the conclusion Apple's getting closer to putting out some augmented reality glasses.
You know, it feels like every so often we get one more breadcrumb along this path that's like maybe leading us up to something that Apple is doing for AR. And, you know, every so often people turn up like a patent that's recently surfaced. Or I was thinking earlier about how I think it was in January 2017, there was the report that Apple was working with Zeiss sunglasses.
Right.
And so it's little clues along the way.
Is it possible it's just us making the mistake of the Platonic story about the elephant, where we're like, oh, it's glasses, it must be augmented reality. Oh, it's Zeiss sunglasses, and it turns out like it's a motorcycle helmet or something entirely different that we hadn't expected?
Hey, humans and confirmation bias. I think that's one of the strongest relationships that exists out there.
It would be like Apple, though, to jump into this market right now because it is at the point where it exists. There are some products you can buy. You can even get a Magic Leap if you're in the right city and a developer and want to spend a couple $1,000s. And that's the beginning of the window in which Apple will jump in on a product line and say, but we figured out how to do it better. If they're just acquiring something like Aconia, feels like it's probably a year or two off from us actually seeing a product, if we see one. You know? Well, let's talk about Google. The Google Assistant now can understand 2 languages at once using Google's language identification model, LangID, in the Google Home app, the Assistant on your phone, and Google itself. Pretty much any platform Google Assistant is available in. Google announced the upcoming feature at I/O earlier this year. Bilingual language pairings can be made mix and match from the following languages: English, German, French, Spanish, Italian, and Japanese, with more languages coming in the future. Google also says it's working on trilingual support, because that's what Patrick Beja's family is going to need, because he speaks French, his wife speaks Swedish, and they both speak English and Japanese. They're going to need quadrilingual.
And probably Finnish as well, right?
They might have to, being in Finland, but they speak a lot of Swedish in Finland too. But yeah, would make sense, right?
Sure.
Those in Germany, France, or the UK can use the bilingual assistant on a Google Home Max, which goes on sale in those countries today.
Very cool. I'm not really a bilingual person. I'd love to think that I am, but I'm not really. However, if you've got the assistant and you're used to calling up information or getting responses from it, And yeah, you're in a bilingual household, or for whatever reason are interested in getting results in 2 different languages. Really interesting, especially because I mean, English, German, French, Spanish, Italian, Japanese, that's a whole, that's actually, it's very complex to go from English to Japanese, for example.
I wonder if it is more complex for the AI to
maybe not
train between 2 Romance languages like French and Spanish, for instance, or Spanish and Italian, than it is to go to Japanese. It's certainly harder for us, right? That's a really interesting question. Like, does that ease that we have translate into the AI training? Because the biggest deal here is for the assistant to be able to understand without prompting, oh, she's speaking Spanish now. So that, you know, if your abuela walks up to the assistant and wants it to start playing her playlist, she can speak in Spanish, while the kids maybe are just going to use English on it. And the assistant has to know on the fly, which is quite a lot of processing power.
It's fascinating, and it's nice to see this finally happening. I mean, I grew up in a household with English and Spanish, and I think one of the first things that my mother, who is from South America, asked me when my parents got a voice assistant, was like, "Can I talk to this thing in Spanish?" And I was like, "No, not yet." But you know, I mean, I think it's a reality of the modern age. For Spanish speakers alone, there's something like 437 million people in the world who speak Spanish, and that actually edges out English. So it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and we're not, you know, don't forget, the Google Assistant could already do Spanish, but then it wouldn't be able to do English if it was set to Spanish. You'd have to switch it back and forth. So the big leap here is not having to decide, oh, right, the assistant is set to English, I have to speak it to it in English.
When I think I'll be really impressed, this is impressive, don't get me wrong, but when you can finish a sentence with English and Spanish words at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Throw it in,
and
right.
We'll be like, I know what you're saying. I get it.
Yeah.
I get your Spanglish or whatever it might be.
Or your Japanglish.
Japanglish is probably a thing. Twitter confirmed it recently tested a feature that suggests accounts you might want to unfollow rather than follow. In a statement, a Twitter rep told Slate, "Yes, we know that people want a relevant Twitter timeline. One way to do this is to try unfollowing people that they don't engage with regularly. We ran an incredibly limited test to surface accounts that people were not engaging with to check if they'd like to unfollow them." The company says the test has now concluded and did not say whether or not it would become a regular feature. And, you know, Slate wrote this up and asked Twitter for comment because some users were noticing this.
I get the impulse, and I think it's a really good one, because my follow list has pretty much just risen. I will occasionally unfollow people for this or that reason, but I don't make a point of it. So I've got a lot of accounts in there that don't tweet anymore, or when they do, I'm surprised. I'm like, oh, do I follow that person? I didn't realize that. What was interesting about the screenshots that Slate put up for this was they cast it as control what's happening. You don't need to follow everyone to know what's happening. Make sure you're only following the people that make Twitter great for you, and then suggest some people that you might want to unfollow. And that feels insulting. Like, and these are the people that suck, so please unfollow.
Right. Control what's happening in your timeline. These are, you know, bad actors. Yeah, and Slate made a note of that as well in their article about this. They had a few examples of people saying, what is this? Control what's happening here does sort of sound like control.
Yeah.
What might be a, you know,
oh, we lost you. We lost Sarah there. But I think I know where you're going, which was, you know, control what's happening. Sounds like you're out of control and you need to seize control back, instead of just being something where you are suggested, hey, this is just maybe not an account. Like I would think a better way to suggest it might be, still interested? Here are some accounts you follow that you don't engage with very often. You know, double check.
This reminded me a little bit of when Jimmy Kimmel tells people to unfriend people on Facebook. But yeah, I was interested in how they might determine, interactions, because I was thinking there's a lot of accounts that, for example, I follow. This is a completely passive thing, like news organizations or celebrities or, folks like that. Like, I'm not tweeting back and forth with, the Washington Post.
Right.
So I'll be curious to see how that works.
I guess if you click through, that's an interaction, but there's plenty of those accounts where I never click because it's just like a breaking news alert sort of situation. Right. Yeah.
Or thoughts of dog,
right.
One of those kind of funny accounts. So
ZTE reported its worst ever first half net loss of 7.8 billion yuan after a U.S. supplier ban forced it to shut down for 3 months earlier this year. ZTE says it expects to return to profitability of 24.2 million yuan in Q3, but that still means it's going to have a pretty big loss for the first 9 months of the year. ZTE's new executives, remember they had to replace the executives to get rid of the ban, say that production is back in line with July and August of last year, so they're back up to speed. Meanwhile, at IFA, ZTE did introduce a new flagship, the 6.21-inch AMOLED Axon 9 Pro, with vertically aligned dual rear-facing cameras, a front notch, some small bottom bezels, a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, and USB-C, among a bunch of other features. The interesting thing is the last Axon was the foldable one, and everybody thought, oh, we're going to keep seeing these innovative form factors. This Axon looks like the Axon 7, except upgraded for the current year. So I wonder if that shutdown put the brakes on some of these more innovative designs. Anyway, the Axon 9 Pro goes on sale in Europe in September for $640.
Well, Sarah, you're it.
Oh dear. What's been going on in this weird world of ours?
Oh, I kept going with the audio, so don't worry about it. We're back on video too.
Okay.
I was just saying that ZTE is what's going on with ZTE is not just important for the phone world; it's also important for what's going on outside of the phone world as well. Like what's happening in China is on a bigger stage than just the phone world. I don't expect to see ZTE announcing any U.S. availability anytime soon. And Erin, I know you're not following this super closely, but are you surprised to see ZTE bounce back from a 3-month shutdown? I think that's what's most interesting to me is you would think if someone told you this ahead of time that company would be gone, they would be done. And here they are announcing a new product and profitability.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be curious to see what, folks have to extrapolate about this. And also, ZTE was in the news because of the lifting of the ban from President Trump. So, I think a lot of people will probably be keeping an eye on ZTE and seeing how it does.
Yeah. I can't, every time somebody says, well, if this happens, that company's done. Think of ZTE. They couldn't get parts from the US, had to shut down their manufacturing for 3 months. And they're, I wouldn't say they're fine, but they're still in existence and still making phones and back to profitability. So when properly structured and managed, and you have the right staff, I guess it's possible.
Well, if anyone here is suffering from lack of sleep, boy, have I got a wearable for you. Garmin launched the Vivosmart 4 wearable, which has a blood oxygen monitor, or pulse ox, as the company calls it, that reads your oxygen saturation levels at night in order to gauge your sleep quality. It can also estimate light or deep or REM stages of sleep, which then you can view as sleep stats in the Garmin Connect app afterwards. The Vivosmart 4 also monitors energy levels based on your stress, and that is based on your heart rate variability and your sleep quality and your overall activity. It can run for 7 days between charges and cost $130.
First of all, Garmin, they try to make it sound like they invented the word pulse ox in their press release. It's a common term in medical. I am familiar with it just recently because we had Chuck Laternos on DTNS Labs, and he talked about having pulse ox readings from a third party. So Garmin, don't pretend you invent words that you invent. But that said,
I love the idea of this though.
The idea that it would say like dude, you don't have enough energy. Just chill. Just relax. It's something I probably need someone, if not a device, to say to me.
The thing that always kind of crosses my mind about that, though, is like I'm usually pretty aware when I sleep poorly.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, for example, last night I woke up and I was like, didn't sleep well, but I didn't really know the details of why I didn't sleep. So having those stats, it depends on how good of a or bad of a sleeper you are, or how much you feel like stress might be, boosting your heart rate, or the alternative throughout the day. Even if it doesn't necessarily point to something specific like, oh, you've got this ailment and you can fix it and you're going to sleep better. Having more data on sleep patterns, as somebody who's at least speaking for the people who don't sleep that well overnight overall, I love this. Even if I don't know exactly how to fix it, I love having this kind of data. And I've had smartwatches in the past that attempted to do this, or even an iPhone that supposedly was using sonar to, see when I was moving around to get a sense of, when my deep sleep versus my REM sleep was happening. And I never really understood if that was all that accurate or not, but it's still really interesting, especially when the ultimate goal is to be as stress-free and as well-rested as possible.
Yeah, because the key here is, millions of these trackers have done sleep tracking before. That's not new. It's saying we're going to conclude that with your heart rate, your activity levels, and figure out like, hey, you're too stressed. You need to rest. I absolutely know when I had a bad night's sleep, but I'll still barrel through the day and be like, well, you just got to do it. And if this was able to say like, hey, if you take an hour and just rest right now, it's going to pay off. You don't have the energy to do what you're doing right now. Don't go for that run. Don't lift those boxes or whatever. I imagine if it told me not to do the show, I'd ignore it. But
right. Yeah. Stress be danged.
Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. Well, Erin just published a feature, we mentioned it at the top of the show, that looks at the tech national parks are using to keep visitors and poachers from stealing resources. A lot of interesting stuff in here, Erin. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the cacti.
Yeah, so it's like tagging a dog, but for a cactus.
Exactly. Yeah. So about 8 years ago, rangers at Saguaro National Park outside of Tucson had come across this trailer that was packed with saguaro cacti. This has been an ongoing problem for them. If you haven't seen them, saguaro are like the iconic, cowboy cacti, and they're prized landscape items, and they can go for about $100 a foot. And so it kind of depends, but unscrupulous landscaping company can, for example, pocket the money you pay them and just go dig one up for free. So the park has been trying to figure out how to curb that problem.
And this is because these cactuses are so valuable that I guess ne'er-do-wells can make a lot of money selling them to gardeners. But what I got from your story is it relies on the garden shops, on the nurseries to enforce this, to do the scanning and then say, well, hold on, where'd you get this? It has a tracker in it. I wonder how many that would buy from these people in the first place would be willing to do that.
Yeah, I think for them, part of their messaging is this is a deterrent. And the rangers want this idea out there of like, do you want to be the one who digs up a cacti that's been chipped on the off chance or the case that a nursery does decide to check if this was like a legally obtained cactus. So, and the chips are passive. That's the other thing, is this is not like a case where you have a map and there's like a dot and you're like, there's like a high speed chase because there's a cactus hanging out.
I so wish that would have
I want to see that, but
Tomorrow's headed down 70. Let's after it.
Exactly. So this is like largely just a deterrent. Like, you don't want to take a chance, right? hopefully.
Yeah, and I guess the nurseries could get caught too if somebody came in and decided to do a spot scan. So the nurseries are going to want to scan to make sure they're getting these things. And I didn't realize just how slowly they grow. It's not like you can pop up these big ones like you see in the Roadrunner cartoons overnight. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a 200-year-old cactus can, be 5 feet tall. It's kind of impressive. And that's kind of the other factor to this is that if someone does steal, a large cactus, this is not something that can be readily replaced.
Yeah. Another interesting one was the petrified wood, because that was where a little bit of technology turned out to be a good thing. Turned out that things aren't as bad as we thought, maybe.
Yeah. So at the park, they've had this kind of almost PR problem that people over time have just picked the park clean. And that's anyone from folks who just want a souvenir of this beautiful, colorful, like striated wood to people who want to maybe load up a trunk in their car and sell it. And the thing with that is like, well, if you have a park and the idea is there's nothing left in the park, no one's going to go to your park. So rangers basically dug up all this archival photography and tried to match the vantage point and the location to just compare how much has changed. And they found overall the problem was not as bad as they had feared that it might be.
Well, and you mentioned in your story there was a petrified forest or a petrified park anyway in the Black Hills in the Dakotas that did have to shut down because everyone took everything worth looking at. So I wonder if that's what caused the story to get confused, maybe.
Yeah, because when you have an event like that has happened, this park that existed had these kind of incredible fern-like fossils of this plant called a cycad, and you come across something like that, and people they take one, they take two for various reasons, they clean out the park, and so it feels like there's an immediate danger because this has happened in our country's history that we basically lost a site because people wouldn't leave it alone.
Because they took all the fern fossils.
Yeah.
The other thing that was interesting is people sending back the petrified wood doesn't really help. Like if they took a little chip and then felt bad and sent it back, which apparently they do, the fact that they've now removed it from the location and they don't know where that location is really hurts the archaeology of it.
Absolutely. And at this point, the park has something that they call a conscience pile. It's big enough that, it's got a name, obviously, but people start to feel guilty. There's also this kind of legend that you might get cursed if you take something from the park. And so they get letters from people apologizing and maybe detailing their kind of, poor luck in the time since. But folks at the park they can't pinpoint an exact location of where that came from. And sometimes they get things that they know didn't come from the park at all, like seashells, which is, okay, sure. But I
felt bad that I took this hot dog.
Just take it off my hands.
Yeah.
But that kind of compromises the scientific value of the site. Because if you have something that you don't really know where it came from, you can't study it within the context that it was originally existing in.
Now, there's lots of good stuff in this article. I highly recommend folks go read it. We'll have a link in the show notes. You can find it at cnet.com. For instance, dyeing ginseng roots so that you can scan them under fluorescent lights to see if the ginseng that's being carried around was actually stolen from a place that it shouldn't have been. But the last thing I want to mention is Redwood National Park's burl thieves. That's one where they need some help. They need some technology help because it's very difficult to stop people from taking these things, and they're essential to the growth of the redwoods.
Absolutely. And this is a case where, it's really easy to think sometimes that tech can be a cure, for anything, but there are obstacles that parks face as far as resources and management and whatnot. And people poach burls because it's beautiful wood. And, but when they carve out a large chunk of this ancient tree, they're opening it up to pathogens, and they're compromising the tree's future ability to be able to spawn more trees. And when you look at the pictures, it's just really heartbreaking.
Yeah. And the burl's like a growth kind of on the side and is valued because I guess it's easy to carve into bowls and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And they can be massive. But when you carve one out, you get this kind of nice, smooth, flat, kind of wood, has this beautiful grain on it. But it's basically kind of an outgrowth of the tree that didn't quite happen. And so it just sort of like bulges.
Yeah. Don't steal burls. And if you have a good idea to help people prevent burl thieves, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com.
Yeah, and as somebody who, when I think of poaching, I think of poaching a animal that is endangered in a national park somewhere very far away from me. It's good to remember that the ecosystem includes lots of flora and fauna, and they're all very important to keep intact. Don't steal. Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. None of you are thieves, and if you are,
stop.
It's a story for another time. Stop being thieves. But what you should do instead is submit stories and vote on others at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Also, we're on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
The next time you have the impulse to steal a burl, instead just email us, and Sarah might read your email on the show, right?
Correct. Like the email I'm about to read from Ryan. He had some thoughts on our conversation with Scott Johnson yesterday on the best smartwatch features. Why are they smartwatches? Why are they great? Ryan says, recently I had a date with a cardiologist through Tinder. Ryan says, ultimately it didn't work out, but that's beside the point. Ryan asked her how accurate the Apple Watch was for diagnosing heart irregularity. And she said it was around 95% accuracy. She also recommended that people wear them for this very reason. What's funny is that Apple doesn't advertise this fact. It's only through news reports and word of mouth that the feature becomes more apparent. Ryan says, in the professional world, I work as a software developer in the medical device field. From experience, I know there's a whole lot of work that goes into submitting devices to the FDA in order to market a device as a medical device. A lot of documentation that needs to happen for every software release cycle. I can understand why Apple wouldn't want to market the Apple Watch as a medical device. Personally, though, the entire reason I have an Apple Watch is for this reason. Everything else, like notifications, that's just icing. Detecting heart irregularity is an incredible feature, even if it isn't advertised. And it would be great if Google were to take note of this feature and put something similar in their offerings.
I'm there's something like that in Wear OS. And if anyone knows these features well enough to compare them, let us know. But I know there is similar functionality there. It may not be exactly as good as what we're talking about here. But thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And perhaps you'd like the new Garmin wearable that we talked about earlier in the show. Thank you also to Erin Carson for being with us. Erin, so good to see you. Let folks know where they can keep up with all of your work.
You can find me at cnet.com, and on Twitter, I am at Erin Carson.
Excellent.
Yeah, and people in the chat room are demanding you become a permanent member of DTNS. So I think they like having you on the show.
Very, very kind people.
Girl power.
Don't forget, folks, we can do more because you help us. So if you're willing to help us out, go to patreon.com/DTNS, because even just giving us $1 really helps the show get better and better. Don't forget, I'm heading out to Greenville, Illinois for a meetup Friday, September 7th at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Family Vine Winery on 1349 Red Ball Trail in Greenville, Illinois. We'll have that in the show notes, link to their Facebook page as well. So if you're in the Southern Illinois area or can reach it, I'd love to see you Friday, September 7th at 6 p.m.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Thanks to everybody who gives us feedback. You make the show better every day. We're also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC, and find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Patrick Norton as our guest. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
You made it.
That was fun.
We're gonna make it after all.
It was a good show.
It was a great show, Erin. Thank
Welcome to
you.
live TV, everyone.
Right.
Burl thieves minus the equals Burl lives.
Burl lives.
Ooh.
Burl lives.
What should we
Odie,
call this?
was that your fault? He says, no, I didn't do it. I've just been sleeping. And
Number one on the show bot is curbing cacti crime.
ooh, I like
You know,
that.
if you
Triple
wanna
C.
believe
Triple C. That's pretty good.
Curbing
Always accelerate.
cacti crime.
Whenever
That's one of
I-
those things where I'd be like, what? Come on. But you read the article and you're like, actually it makes sense. This is a real legitimate issue.
One of our editors on Twitter last night said, or used the phrase "grand theft cactus," and I was like, why did I think of that?
Curbing
Hot cacti. Yeah. That's two.
Cactus sharps. Sharps, like an old word for thieves, and then stickers being.
Wait, sharps is a word for a
Yeah,
thief?
like card sharps were people who would filch you out of your money.
Not card shark. Card
Nope,
sharp.
sharp.
With a P.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that either.
No, just Tom.
Because I'm 7,000 years old.
Give Tom a second and he'll pull something out. Be like, in fact, let me show you what a card sharp looks like. I have one from
I used to be a
1987.
Card sharp in 1594.
Just so happen to have kept it all these years.
The Italian Baroque artist Michelangelo painted me in his famous The Card Sharps painting.
Card sharp? Why do I know this? Well, yeah, because a card shark is just somebody who's like
I think it's
good at
card,
playing
card
cards.
shark is one of those things where people start saying something wrong and then it catches it on because it kind of sounds right. Like, oh yeah, like a shark. I get it. But
So it
the
came from
earlier
shark.
name was Card Sharp.
Wow.
Interesting.
That is so interesting. I need to
In
know
fact,
more.
hold on.
Like a pool
Here.
shark and all those other kind of very
Oh,
sneaky
right.
places.
Yeah. Like, I wonder if pool shark is part of that lineage. Oh, no. I'm sharing you back to yourself. That's wrong.
Too much.
Oh,
conception.
okay. So here we go.
Here,
Via the
this-
grammarist, card sharp is preferred in British English, while card shark is more common in American, Canadian, and Australian English.
because we all munged it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, we're all the old Commonwealth.
Here's
They share
the-
their main definitions, namely a professional card player, a person who is skilled in card games, and a person who is skilled in cheating in card games. The British card sharp more often implies cheating. Card shark, especially in American English, often simply is a term for somebody who spends a lot of time playing cards.
He's just
So
real
they've
good.
kind of morphed into their own thing.
But this is Michelangelo's The Card Sharps from the 16th century.
Yes, one of his best. What's that guy got behind his back? A card.
Cards.
More
He's-
cards.
He's
Well, I thought
stealing-
it kind of looked like a knife or something. I thought it was going to be more.
it's like
He's
a
got like
fork
a little
line.
dagger on his side, and then
Yeah.
I think all three of these
behind him.
individuals look shady for different reasons.
Oh yeah, because they're card sharps. That's why.
and the guy in the middle is not being subtle at all.
Head to Wikipedia and look up card sharps, audio listeners, if you want to play along at home.
Tom, you're still sharing screen, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Card sharps. That is new. I didn't know that. I really didn't.
Remember that.
No.
Remember that.
I'm neither a card sharp or shark. I'm very bad at cards.
I'm a card blunt myself.
I'm a card. No, thank you. I'll just watch.
Minnow.
I can lay down some euchre, but you can't really bet on euchre. So
Why not?
maybe you can. I just haven't been introduced into betting on euchre.
I mean, you can bet on anything, but some things
Sure.
lend themselves to it more than others. I
Yeah.
suppose.
It's
Is
not
there
like
like-
there's like a Vegas house, euchre
Yeah.
house going on.
I don't know, actually. I wonder.
There probably is.
Because there is
Now that you
big
say
euchre,
that,
but
I'm
it's
like,
totally
I
different.
bet there is. Vegas has everything.
Yeah, if there's like a cactus black market, then somebody's betting on euchre.
You know what I was wondering
Sure about
about
that.
recently when I was in Vegas is because yes, I don't really gamble, but I find the whole thing fascinating. Why do we not have pachinko rooms in Vegas?
Because you don't need to.
Right.
But like, I mean, with all of the particularly Japanese tourists, but other, doesn't have to be.
I'm showing you VegasEuchre.com, which advertises the weekly euchre games at Meepleville. Let's look up Vegas Pachinko. Because my guess...
The reason I bring up pachinko is because I found it one of the most interesting things about Japan was just the
Nevada
pachinko fascination.
Hold on. The Nevada Gaming Board has approved a license bid by Japanese gaming company Sega to bring pachinko machines. It sounds like maybe it was a political thing.
Interessante. Okay. So that's why. Because I understand pachinko is its own thing, but for kind of that slot machine, fun, lights, sounds, the whole thing, Vegas would be perfect for that.
Well, and I was just going to guess, like, maybe it doesn't make you as much money, so the casinos all put in slot machines.
You do nickel slots, but people still play them.
Yeah, no, but but they probably make a lot of money off that. Maybe pachinko allows you to win too often or something. I don't know.
I say bring more pachinko to Vegas. I like pachinko.
Date on that article. 2017 was the date on that article.
That was about a year ago. So I don't know. Somebody who lives in Vegas, let us know when you see your first pachinko machine, and we will make a note of it. Sega.
I interviewed Russ Pitts this morning.
How did you? How is our fair Pitts?
He's great. He is bringing the escapist back to life.
I know. It's so awesome.
And we had a wonderful half-hour or so conversation about that and the state of the internet and reminiscing about half-price books a little bit because we both worked there back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Russ and I realized we both worked for the same company in every decade except this one since the 80s. We worked at Half Price Books together in the 90s. We worked at Tech TV together in the 2000s. We have yet to work at the same company in the teens.
Hey, you got 2 years.
I know. We got to figure this out.
Yeah. That's great. I very fond of Russ. And I'm glad that he's doing so good.
Oh, yeah. So if you're a patron, you have that Labs interview in your feed right now. And if you're not, it will come out on Saturday.
Hooray.
He even referenced his famous email at one point.
Eagle Seaman.
Did you say?
No, sorry. Just had a frog in my throat.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Just
sounded like you said, never mind.
No, of course not. Nope.
Erin, we're probably confusing you unless you know who Russ is.
I don't.
Erin's like, I'm politely not getting
I apologize for this trip down memory lane on behalf of myself and Sarah. We both worked with Russ at Tech TV. He was a producer on the Screensavers. And I worked with him at Half Price Books in Austin back in the 90s before that.
CD and all of that, yeah.
He has gone on to much bigger and better things. He has a charity called Take This that helps with anxiety and suicide prevention amongst gamers, specifically targeting conventions when people are likely to be stressed out.
Yeah.
And he just took over The Escapist, which he had been the editor-in-chief at like 10 years ago, but it was about to go under, and he kind of helped rally to save it, and they're rebuilding it now.
Oh, cool. Sounds like he's got some good stuff going.
Yeah.
He also wrote a very iconic goodbye email, a corporate email.
I was trying to finish on an up note, Sarah, but yeah, no, you're right.
We don't have to get into it. Somebody fill in Erin at a later time.
He wrote a book about it, so it's not like he's trying to hide it.
Right. Yeah. It was a goodbye Tech TV, whole company, thousands of people.
It was one of those classic .com era, like, you know,
right.
You all
It was the mic drop to end all mic drops.
Mhm.
Just leave it at that.
I still remember where I was when I opened
still-
up Lotus Notes and read it.
Me too. Because the best part, and I always tell the stories like the best part is like you can hear people, because we were all kind of, it was cubicle life, right? You know, and you hear people, oh my God, ooh, look at this. And finally someone's like, who's Russ Pitts? And that was the end of it. And
That's
it was
incredible.
just like, oh, it's just the best ending to a wonderful.
Legendary.
Yeah, truly, truly legendary. Nothing has ever topped that for me as far as a mass email goes to a company.
Well, it's got to be something special if it's like a mass email that you're reminiscing about.
15
Mhm.
years, 20 years later. I mean, 18 years later,
Still funny.
maybe 15 years later, I guess.
What do you think, Odie? He says, I don't know how to email.
Not yet.
No,
Not yet.
he'll get there.
There's
He'll
time.
get there.
Sawyer wants to get in touch with him to collaborate on some film projects. So
Oh, that'd be great.
yeah,
I mean, he's kind of lazy. Not gonna lie.
a little bit. Yeah, he certainly isn't looking energetic right this second, is he?
This dog.
Maybe he
I'm
needs
telling
the
you.
Garmin app.
A tired dog is a happy dog.
It's a happy me. That's for sure. I'll tell you.
You know, I realized yesterday in the pre-show, Amos and I had talked a little bit about smartwatches, and I meant to bring it up in the conversation on yesterday's show, and I forgot. But you have an interesting way of managing your smartwatches so that you're always collecting data.
Right. I have an original Apple Watch that I purchased like in November, the first year they were out. And I have a Series 3 that is my daily wearer now. And I have converted my original one to a sleep time only one. So at night when I'm getting ready for bed, I'll put it on. And in the morning, I'll swap it back out for my Series 3 and go about my day. So the nighttime one will track sleeping habits. It has it won't give you any alerts for your cardiac symptoms or whatever like the Series 3 will and has. But it does track sleeping, and you can set them up separately in your phone. So my Series 0, as I call it, it doesn't have any alerts. It's in permanent theater mode, and it'll tell me the time if I need to, and it's how I wake up in the morning because I set it by my alarm. But it's always gathering that sleeping data, that restlessness, and all of that. So.
Well, so having used this for a while, Amos, what have you learned about your sleeping habits?
That I don't sleep enough. That's the big thing.
Brother.
I've also got a mild case of sleep apnea, so I've got the little machine.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gathering a lot of information about my sleep on a regular basis, blood pressure checks, all that kind of stuff. So I'm finding habits that will improve my quality of sleep and my quantity of sleep. For instance, here lately, I've been leaving my cell phone downstairs in the living room to charge overnight. I don't even take it to the bedroom with me, so I don't have that I'll just check one more story, I'll just watch one more video or whatever. So I'm falling asleep a lot faster than even if I took my phone upstairs and didn't look at it. It was still there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's giving me some data. I'm not sure exactly how to use it at best, but I'm slowly incorporating it into my life and trying to make the small changes that you can make incrementally.
You know, when I go to bed, I always have my phone next to me because it's my alarm clock. I don't have another one,
Same.
which has actually it has led me astray a couple of times where I just ran out of batteries in the middle of the night, and then I woke up late and been like, my God. But for the most part, yeah, I don't really want to. I don't lay in bed and look at my phone. And I understand that for some people, it's sort of psychological, like too much news before bed is, kind of bad for, what you're going to dream about, or the actual light into your eyes is counterproductive to going to sleep. I don't really have either of those problems, but I like the idea of, saying it's time for bed. It's not phone time. It's not computer time. Nothing about this is going to be part of this. I'm going to sleep, and it's going to be down next to me. And I will see you in 8 hours, hopefully, when the alarm goes off. Doesn't always work that way, but I find that that's the most zen way for me to go about sleeping at night.
I'm pretty restrictive on the notifications I have to. Well, obviously the sleep watch, because there's no notifications to go to that unless you're on my emergency contacts list. But even my daily wear, my Series 3, I don't really have a lot of notifications going to it unless I'm expecting something. Like, this week Slack is on my watch because, well, there's constantly stuff going on for the show. But I found that even that the fact that I have a Series 3 relieves the phone anxiety, the phone separation anxiety. Oh, what if someone needs to call me? What if a kid calls me from school, whatever else? Because I can get it on my watch. Meanwhile, my watch doesn't have near the functionality. It doesn't have games. It doesn't have Facebook. It doesn't have all these distractors. So if I leave my phone in my truck at work and just go into work, I actually get way more done without that constant the daemon running in the back of my head. Hey, check your phone, check your phone, check your phone. I just completely separate myself from it. And that's weird to me because I'm the biggest techie in my house. Like I'm all about, I love new tech. I watch repeats of Apple announcements because I want to see what they got going on if I can't catch it live. I'm that guy, but I'm finding that here, at least in the last several months, the more I separate myself from my phone, the better my overall quality of life is becoming.
I think you should call the watch you wear to sleep your night watch, and then we can call you a night watchman.
I see what you're going with there.
And with that, we end our video. Thank you for watching audio, folks. After that, you may or may not want to stick around. There's more to come.